Hello, and welcome to Beyond Biotech, the weekly podcast from Labiotech. I'm Dylan Kissane, and this is episode 202 for the podcast. This week, we preview the Bio International Convention, starting next week in San Diego. This is the key partnering event of the year where biotechs connect with pharmaceutical companies and investors in partnering meetings, all to advance and fund innovative therapies. My guest is Werner Lanthaler, founder and CEO of WLAN Holding. Werner spent 15 years as CEO of Evotec, scaling the company from 200 employees and 40 million euros in revenue to over 5,000 staff and 800 million euros. He previously served as CFO of Intercell, overseeing its IPO and vaccine launch, and today he leads investments and advisory in high-tech life sciences. In our interview, Werner explains why partnering events like Bio are critical to advancing science in biopharma. He shares practical advice on how biotechs can prepare before the event, succeed on site, and follow up to turn meetings into partnerships. He's got clear, actionable strategies to optimize your bio experience. So let's get to it with Werner Lanthaler. Werner, welcome to Beyond Biotech.
Hi, Dylan. How are you?
Great. Werner, maybe you could just start by telling us a little about your career journey in biotech. How did you get to where you are?
So let's start from the beginning, because I originally studied economics and psychology. So I was far away from the world of molecules or far away from the world of curing diseases. But when I was a McKinsey consultant, I was fortunate enough to see that the world of biotech, when it comes to manufacturing problems, exists. And that's where was my first touch to the world of people who use science to develop products. So after being a consultant at McKinsey, I was fortunate enough to meet two professors at a university. One of them was making novel antigens, Alexander von Gabin, and the other one was making novel adjuvants, Max Birnstiel. And I, with my layman knowledge of biotech, said, wow, that's a vaccine. And both of them said, yeah, it seems that you're the first finance person who understands something about science. Why don't we create the company here together? So that brought me into the foundation of Intercell, a vaccine company that brought several products to the market and into registration. And now there are products on the market, and I'm very happy that I was part of this important journey. And after basically transforming Intercell from a science company to a market-ready company, I left Intercell, went to a drug discovery, drug development company called Evotec, where we started from a service business model to morph into a co-owning and output-driven business model with drug discovery and drug development partnerships out of Germany, the UK, Italy, France, and at the end also the United States. And after Intercell, which I did for about 15 plus years, I decided to create my own company, which is WLAN Holding, which has basically an investment arm, but also a governance consulting arm, where we either are participant in equity rounds of companies, or we are part of the governance of companies as board members and as building, I would say, friendly faces around scientific ideas. But the core is always the same. What I always wanted to do and what I'm trying to do is be part of medicines that come to men and to mankind, because after 30 years of doing this now, that's what makes me get up in the morning, and knowing that there are still 4,000 diseases out there without cure gives you a reason to get up in the morning every day.
So you're founder and CEO at WLAN Holding, but you also keep yourself fairly busy at FairJourney as well. Tell me a little bit about the mission of FairJourney.
FairJourney, where I'm fortunately the CEO, is I would say the most exciting platform when it comes to the discovery and development of biologics globally. Why do I say this? Because we have a highly sophisticated scientific approach with an end-to-end partnering logic in the industry, where coming from high medical need to what is technically feasible is the journey that we go together with our partners. And here creating a company with about 300 scientists in the US, in Portugal, and in the UK today, I think is the starting point for a mega trend, which is, I think, the next decade of biotech clearly evolving, that's more efficient, more precise, and more complex biologics to come to the market. And that's where Journey is an absolute leader, especially when it comes to more complex, like bispecific, trispecific, or multispecific biologics in use for high unmet medical need.
I'm glad you mentioned partnering there, both in the context of Evotec and also at FairJourney. You know, the reason that we wanted to have you on the show is because something that's on the horizon for everybody right now is the Bio International Convention. It's coming up next week. This is the big partnering event of the year, but it's also just one of several big partnering events around the world every year. Why are events like this really important for really innovative biotech companies?
Let's go back one step before. This is an industry which only when we show shared know-how, shared resources, shared approaches, that we are truly efficient and truly value creating at enormous magnitude. I think the for me highlight in history here was when we all came together in partnering to fight COVID. And we don't want to talk about it anymore. And we don't want to remember these phases for many, many reasons anymore. And unfortunately, we have also given up a lot of the good cooperation practices that we established in that moment. But having said that, it shows us the best of our industry, of what we can do in a very short period of time if we truly listen and partner together. And for example, the cooperative research efforts in this moment, or the cooperative business development discussion in this moment, was fascinating. And to me, it was never out of question that that's the right way of doing it before COVID and also after COVID. And that's, I think, why this is just one of the highlights of how important partnering is, and also why it is the best practice for us to come to efficient partnering events, moments, and with this also processes.
So if you're a biotech founder going to an event like this, what sort of value do these sort of one-on-one meetings have? I mean, it's one thing to have cooperation around COVID where you have the whole world focused on one thing. Often these meetings are 15 minutes, half an hour, focused on a very small topic in the context of a 4-day event that's focused on every topic.
For me, every conference is learning. And I cannot tell you how often I've seen myself, but also many friends and colleagues coming back from a conference where we before the conference said, oh God, another conference, or oh God, another flight to meet all these people. And then you come back and it is this one meeting, or this is this one person that you met on the street, or this is this one exchange of a business card where you say, this paid off for the whole event. So I think the first thing before you even go there, you should tune your head towards something unexpected should happen and will happen. And not only the 30-minute speed dating is why you are there and what is the plan to execute. That's a nice, I would say, skeleton to build and to go there and to justify the travel costs and the very expensive hotels in these places, typically. But at the same time, this is the skeleton for the event that you don't know that is coming, or for the insight that you don't know that is coming, or for the learning moment that you don't know that it's coming. So keeping an open mind and not a closed calendar, I think would be my very first advice after having been to hundreds of these events.
What about for the people who aren't biotech founders, small companies, for these pharma companies, for people in finance? What are they expecting to get out of bio? Are they just hoping to bump into someone and find the next big thing?
So again, I think one big learning is always also a reflection of what is out there and what do the others do, and am I amongst the first in class or amongst the best in class? Am I amongst benchmark or below benchmark or above benchmark? So a true learning to position yourself amongst the industry. And the nice thing about a bio conference is it is the closest representation of an industry that you can find, because there will be always more than 70% of all opinions, more than 70% of all representative people, of representative pharma companies, biotech companies, investors. So that's why this comes as close to the mini version of the whole industry that you can have. And with this, it gives you the best reflection opportunity that you can have. That's for me goal number one. Goal number two is, of course, again, everyone goes there with a purpose. You go there and say, I need my financing to be accelerated. I need my business development to be accelerated. I need my hiring network to be expanded. I need my supplier network to be expanded or to be benchmarked. That's, again, always the skeleton to have, but keeping the open mindset for the conference, I think, is absolutely key. But I think that's also fair, and that's, I think, good practice for all the companies where I am. I always tell our groups who go to these events, let's make an agenda before, prepare before, and then make a reflection round after. What did we truly achieve? Because what's not the right thing to do is go there unprepared, go there without a schedule, and then after 5 parties that you have attended or cocktail events that you have attended, said, oh God, another headache of a conference. That's not what it is. It's a professional event. Yeah, it's not a meeting of friends for a bachelor's party.
You know, you mentioned COVID before, and one of the things that we taught ourselves to do as an industry, even a society during COVID, was to communicate online, a Teams call, a Zoom call. We were able to do all of our partnering during COVID on a computer. Is there really a need to go to an event, to meet with someone face to face? Are these just anachronisms now that we get together in a certain place with that very expensive hotel?
I've never made, one step back. I can today say that I made more than 20 M&A transactions that I led in my life, and I made certainly more than 50 strategic partnering transactions in my life. I cannot remember a single one that only came together because we met online or we met via Zoom whatsoever. So this trust base and this, we will do this together and we will keep our forces together and we go through thick and thin on a transaction. That only comes, yeah, if you have established this trust, and this trust only comes if you know the person beyond the Zoom. And I think it's great to have this augmentation of tools today, but we don't have the replacement of let's not meet in person anymore. And I would turn it around and coming back to COVID again. how lucky we are that we can meet without a mask and without 2.5 meters distancing. And hopefully in a few years from now, people will not even remember what it means when we had to do this. Yeah. But that should just tell us how lucky we are and how fortunate we are that we can meet each other and can have this coffee together. And with this, establish trust together. But what it has to be, and I think this is key, if you meet someone in person, then go beyond the shallow talk of weather or of sunshine or not sunshine or rain or not rain, then come to a deep talk or a deep conversation or putting the true facts and the true obstacles of a transaction on the table fast, because then it's also much easier to correct and to guide a discussion in person than by not doing this when you meet in person and then only doing this via emails or via Zooms or via lawyers. Yeah. And that's, I think, where the power of person should not be underestimated. And I think probably it's the opposite, that it is more efficient than ever before if you use an in-person meeting the right way.
Let's talk about some practicalities for making the most of these meetings then. Like you said, you're no stranger to bio, you're no stranger to these partnering events around the world. I want to pick your brain a little bit and get some advice for our audience about how to really make the most out of their experience of bio. You said for the companies that you advise, the companies you work with, you tell them long before the event, they should be making an agenda. What are the sorts of things biotechs need to take into account when they're planning to attend an event like bio?
So I think the first thing very often is, in many companies, there are conferences where everyone wants to go. Yeah. And it correlates with the location of where these events are, and maybe it also correlates with the time of the year where these events are. So I understand San Diego in the summer is a highly desired space to go. But there I would say, let's discuss first internally, where is it really for whom in the company the right thing to do, and how can you best delegate to the 1 or 2 or 3 people in a company to work through the skeleton of an agenda, but also to work through the network of people who are there. So I think, I think it's even fun to very early on look at the who will be there, which companies will be there, who will be attending, who has posted on LinkedIn that they will speak, and who is the true person and not only the delegate or the avatar of the person who will then show up. The second thing is, preparation is also a function of costs. Yeah? Because let's not complain that if we book our flight on the last day, that it is more expensive than on the first day. Let's not complain if we book our ticket on the last day, that it is more expensive than 3 months ahead of the meeting, because many of these things are predictable. The time is predictable, who will be there is predictable, and there's no replacement event for a bio convention 3 months in advance that's not going to come. Yeah. So that's why time is truly money here in preparation and in planning. And that also brings you to very practical things like, should I use the early bonus of buying the ticket or should I not use this? And I think this is all just tools. But the longer you are in this industry, the more I think normalized these tools should be, and say, hey, yeah, JP Morgan is every year in January. If I want to go skiing or if I want to go to JP Morgan, I have to make this decision 6 months ahead, because otherwise there is no room to sleep there.
One of the other things that we have to do when we're going to one of these big meetings, we're always invited to fill out that company profile in the partnering system to explain what the company does, what they're looking for. Do you find that's something that people should really do, or is it just an expectation that the organizers put out there and no one really cares?
I mean, today, using any AI tool, no one should complain anymore that this is a lot of work, because it's just there. So you don't have to type it. You just tell it once your favorite AI that it has to be done and has to be copied and pasted. So there's no excuse for not doing these things. It's like, uh, again, if you take more than 10,000 euros of your budget in your hands, then make it a full effort, make it a full experience. Um, that can be the only advice for people who do this.
When your teams are going there, they're going there with a goal if they're going to accelerate their financing, accelerate their partnering, connect with new potential partners. How are teams deciding who to target? Where do they get their ideas from? It can't just be from the list of attendees.
No, but I think what is very clear, let's take biotech company with a certain therapeutic in the preclinic or in the early clinic, which is a typical profile. Then you say, okay, we're at that stage of the company, we're in this disease area. What are the 20 pharma companies or 40 pharma companies that have a reach out into this disease area as their known public portray, and who are those who could be likely to go around with such an idea to reach out to them. So I think your disease area, your stage of development defines on who to target when it comes to biotech and pharma players, and when it comes to financing partners or investors or VCs. I think honestly here these partnering conferences are highly overestimated because it's always the claim that all VCs are there. I don't think so. You see many scouts that are there, but I it's for me the exception that financing rounds are really made at large biotech conventions, that this is happening there. This needs a separate intro, this needs a separate personal contact, this needs a separate platform, this needs a separate preparation of what is the platform, what does this platform do, what does it bring, what's the competitive world, and then this becomes a dialogue. But what it is, these are social people, yeah, and most of the VCs are just as social people as many of the biotech entrepreneurs that are running around. And I also prefer to work with someone who I can also have a drink with than someone who you don't want to have a drink with. And I think that's why this could be one of these unexpected events to happen, that at this cocktail or reception, you just simply stand next to the person from VC Fund X, and he seems to be nice, and he says, let's follow up, or she is nice, and you say, let's follow up because there's this and this value proposition ongoing. So that's why I don't overestimate the closing quality for venture rounds on these events. Most of them are really business development conferences.
One of the core parts of the Bio International Convention, but any partnering event, are the meetings that you have there, and they're always only very short. How does a biotech really take advantage of that time? What should they be including in their message? What should they be talking about in that meeting to make the best use of that short time?
Mm. I actually don't think that they are short. I think 20 minutes is very long if it's bullshit, and 20 minutes is also very long if it's just not meeting the agenda topic that was there, or what you should make. And if you define the 20 minutes or 30 minutes as the beginning of a relationship, and what this relationship could look like and what's the purpose of that, then I think 20 minutes is absolutely right. Yeah. If you define these 20 minutes that you want to present 150 slides to someone, then you are in the wrong booth, I would say, because that's not That's not the fun place to be. It's not the forum to be. It doesn't have the fresh air that you need. It's just nothing of that. So don't misinterpret a partnering event. It's a starting point of a journey with someone else. And again, with this 20 or 30 minutes, I think are perfect if they are well used, or it's a nightmare to sit in a booth with someone where 20 minutes is just going the wrong direction.
We talk of booths, these little meeting rooms. It's really a table, chairs, and maybe a PowerPoint connection. That's all. What about the booths out on the floor there? The top pharma companies love to build up big things. Country representatives build up big booths. Is it ever worth it for a biotech to invest in a booth on the company for the company on the floor?
I think also here, never underestimate that companies are on different phases in their life cycle. So if you are an up and coming, I give you an example. At Fair Journey, for example, we used to have a lot of inbound business because the company had its follower crowd, and with this growth came through inbound business. Now we are preparing also for outbound business, and we want to market our business to the outside. Yeah. So there's a natural evolution of inbound business being morphed into outbound business. And with this, building up a booth, putting the name out there, creating a bit of name recognition, having people stand at this booth is the absolutely right investment. Sometimes, of course, when I look at booths from, I don't know, a country where you have no clue that any science is ongoing in this country, I ask myself, so why do they now have a stand for, I don't know, Kazakhstan in a bio? I don't know. Yeah. So that's then something that escapes my attention. But again, in general, nothing to be said against it. You have to be aware when you spend money why you're doing this. It shouldn't be an automatism. Yeah. And there are phases when company need these booths and should need these booths, but then it also doesn't tell you that the company is in crisis if you don't have this booth anymore, because you just don't need it anymore, or you have gone virtual, or you have gone to different channels that you're using. And with this, it's no longer the efficient use of $10,000 that this costs. And that's totally fair. And that's, I think, also the challenge to these organizers. They have to make it attractive for me to spend my money there, and not anything else.
What about partnering outside of meetings? So the partnering that happens at lunchtime or at a reception in the evening, or even just walking around on the floor bumping into someone. Is that important as well? Is it important to be networking?
Again, you plan for the event that you don't plan without planning it. So if you don't show up at the conference, the probability of anything happening that could make this tick is high. Yeah. And the nice thing about these conferences is that I have never met anyone who was sitting there alone at the lunch table who is not an interesting person, or who is not better to spend your lunch with this person than alone. Yeah. And you might meet someone there who does exactly what you do, or who might be your future employer. So I think, again, this is a discussion where everyone has the right to invest as much energy and enthusiasm as he or she wants. But there is this element of, if you go to a conference, don't use this for your individual meditation. That's not the place. So you want to go there, you want to be outgoing. Everyone knows that this is the agenda there, and no one will be perceiving you as, God, what a strange person that he says hello and how are you? Yeah, that's not how you would normally behave. But at a conference, I think it's totally respected to say, hey, how are you? What are you doing? I've never heard about your company before. Do you want to have lunch as I'm just in line here for the buffet?
What about something really practical? One of the great things that comes out of a meeting is a request for some more information or to send us the full deck afterwards or make sure that you get in contact with us soon. When should that follow-up really take place? Do we have to wait until the conference is over, or is this something you can start the team working on while you're there at the event?
I mean, there is no right and wrong. There is no immediate timeline or not immediate timeline. I think it's a question of respect to follow up rather sooner than later, because that's the way it works. You go to these conferences. After that, you say anything that was worth following up, any contact that should be put forward into real work. And if this has not happened within a week, then I would say, okay, that was not so interesting that someone wants to follow up with me. And the other thing is, if you then don't get an answer within a week or within 14 days, then don't perceive this as, oh God, what did I do wrong? Sometimes it's really just information overflow and these things drop. But that's then also a function of it doesn't have the highest priority at this stage and it simply dropped. But please try it again next time. Because I guarantee you, so many of these venture rounds, for example, or of these business development discussions, they had multiple attempts to start. Because timing has to come together with science and with the pipeline need of someone. And these stars are not necessarily always aligned in the same fashion. And that's why trying is always the best thing to do, and try it over again and over again and over again.
Werner, let's look a little bit forward now, a bit beyond bio and beyond the partnering events. What's got you as an investor, and what's got you as a CEO excited about biotech right now?
I mean, we come to the most exciting phase of convergence of technologies that we all have seen. And I say this because I'm, for example, excited about AI in drug discovery for the last 10 years. And I will continue to stay excited about this, knowing that in the last 10 years, we have promised a lot and we so far haven't delivered a lot. Or I continue to be super excited about the convergence of diagnostics and therapeutics, knowing that in the last 10 years, we have predicted that this conversion will happen, and still we haven't seen the most practical and most impactful outcomes of this. Or I'm totally convinced that we will see a lot of predicted experiments and no longer executed wet lab experiments. And we will see a globalization of science like we have never seen it before. So I think there are 5 to 10 different angles why we can be excited about this industry more than ever before, without exactly knowing what pattern that will take. But 3 things are clear. One is that everything that will touch and ease and help the aging population will have a huge market and will have a huge medical need. The second, everything that allows scientific intervention, therapeutics, diagnostic, whatsoever, to be not only be there for a small group of people, but for a large group of people because it is affordable, will have a huge impact in a healthcare system that, if it continues to be as expensive as it looks right now in the future, will simply have to make choices. And reducing prices is an important, or costs is an important choice. And the third thing is, when it comes to what we are doing and what we are pursuing, we should not go to any other standard in the futures than cure. And this is a true paradigm shift when you think about 10, 15, 20 years ago, a slowdown of progression or a slowdown of the onset of a disease was already a major breakthrough. I think we are discussing now the first time the reality of multiple diseases where we can think about cures. And that's yeah, breathtaking, exciting, and whatever you want to hear. But that's I think why um, this industry is just at the beginning of what we will do for mankind.
What about the biologics that you're dealing with at FairJourney? Are they at the end of their innovation cycle, or are we really still at the beginning of what it can achieve?
I think it's very clear that we have, when it comes to monoclonals, yeah, gone through a lot of the low-hanging fruits that are there. When it comes to bispecific, trispecifics, ADCs, ASOs, so many of the new modalities in the world of biologics, not even discussing CARs or CAR Ts, then also here it's just the beginning of this world where one thing is already clear and visible today. We will be able to manufacture biologics at costs that were unthinkable 10 years ago. Yeah. And with this, the democratization of biologics is just starting. Yeah. And with this, as this geographic and disease field will expand so much, the next decade is very clearly the decade of biologics. And I would even say it's at least another 2 decades that we will see there.
For an investor like yourself, is there a particular therapeutic area where you're particularly interested, or maybe a geography where you're looking to invest some money?
So I'm with most of the things really trying to focus on the theme of the aging population, because here, coming also from a holistic view, that it's not necessarily only a therapeutic. It can be much more that has positive, productive lifestyle or productive life impact. Yeah. I'm personally not interested in non-scientific things or in food supplements or things like that, but I'm really of the firm belief that there's a lot of therapeutic use for drugs and for interventions where the aging population can benefit dramatically. Second, I'm still a big fan and have always been of the world of vaccines, because prevention is ultimately the best economic use that we can all have. And I think also here, the shift of preventative medicine is something where so far people didn't make a lot of money, but nevertheless, it's very important to create this mind shift that prevention is the best intervention for all of us.
Oh,
I
that's
would
good.
love to have a much more global reach, um, but I really focus on what is close to me and well known to me. So that's why for me the academic centers in Europe and the academic centers in the US are still the most productive ground to find new ideas, new networks, and going forward with ideas.
Werner, for people who are looking to reach out to you or learn a little bit more about what you're doing or what FairJourney is doing, where can they find you? Will they find you at any upcoming events?
So there is a FairJourney is attending multiple events going forward. They're all posted on our webpage, www.fjbio.com. We also post several press releases, post on LinkedIn, and just drop a note and you will get an answer. That's the first thing. And when it comes to, I'm really a big fan also to say, let's create digital content that triggers discussions. So we are preparing a series of webinars as their journey where the future of biologics is discussed, can be discussed, and can then also be followed up in multiple conversations after webinars that we're going to make. And if you have anything where you think you want to share it with me personally, just reach out to me. I have an email address and go for it.
Werner, thanks for joining us today on Beyond Biotech.
Such a big pleasure. Have a great day.
That's it for this episode. Don't forget to check out all the latest news and analysis at Labiotech.eu. I hope wherever you are in the world, you have a great week ahead. Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll join us again next time for another Beyond Biotech.